Hello, everybody. Welcome once again to YOUmake Miami here on Fridays, our webinars. Thank you for joining us. Dinah here. We are, obviously, this is going to be the last webinar of this year. So that's cool, I suppose. Maybe I didn't really internalize how I felt about that just yet. But I'm really happy that we've made it through this year. So thank you so much to those of you who have been with us for actually the past, 6, 7 months since we started this. And of course, without you coming, we wouldn't be able to do this. So thank you so much for being here. And I hope you've enjoyed these past webinars. Becoming kind of like a small community of family here. So I'm really happy about that. We want to wish you happy holidays and a happy new year, of course. But before we get off all sentimental here, let's go ahead and start with Nicole, who will be showing us a fun gift idea. So Nicole and I have our gloves ready because we're gonna get a little dirty here.
A little messy, yeah.
Yay.
Hello, thank you, Dinah. I'm going to be showing you how to make a sugar scrub, and I just put it in this little jar, and I have this little label, and sugar scrubs are super easy and really inexpensive, so they make a great gift because people like to get them, and they're really easy to make. So here we go. All you need, I'm going to show you really quick. I have this right here. These are the recipes that I'm going to be using for this demonstration. You can take a screenshot of this, or actually I can email you all of these files in just a little bit. I made a recipe and I made little labels for them, and this is just a little description that you can give to people because not everyone knows what a sugar scrub is. So again, you can take a screenshot of this and I will email all of these things to you after the webinar. But just so you know, that is what we're going to be doing. Okay, so we have a bowl and we are going to make the peppermint sugar scrub. And it's so easy to make. All we need is sugar. Here I have my 2 cups of sugar already measured out. And I'm going to pour it in the bowl. First step, done. So easy. All right. And then our next step, I use coconut oil. You can actually use any oil, really. Avocado oil is recommended, as well as olive oil. I know a lot of people have allergies to coconut oil, but I don't. I actually really think it's good for moisturizing, and I use it all the time. So I like to use coconut oil, but if you don't, there are other options, whatever oil you have available. If you are going to use a different type of oil, make sure that you're not putting too much in, because other oils are going to be a little more runny, a little thinner, and the more of the thin oil you add, the more runny your sugar scrub is going to be. So if you are going to use a different oil, add it slowly so that you get the right consistency that you want. Okay, so now all I'm doing is mixing. And like the blessing and the curse of coconut oil is that it gets kind of like stiffer and harder whenever it's cold, which is cool, except it makes it harder to mix. So that's what's happening right now. It's hard to mix, and that's okay. It'll take me a minute. But while I'm mixing, I can tell you all about sugar scrubs. So sugar scrubs are great because the grains of sugar are coarse and they exfoliate your skin, but they're round grains, so they exfoliate gently. And what that's gonna do is clear off all your dead skin cells and old skin and leave a nice, soft skin in its place. And with the oil, it will moisturize as well. So you're doing exfoliation and moisturizing at the same time. And on top of that, we are going to add some essential oils. So this one is a peppermint essential oil. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to drop in like 8 to 10 drops. So wait for it. 1, 2. And while that's dropping in, I just kind of move it around so I get nice coverage, so that I get a nice scent throughout. And you can use an extract. If you're going to use an extract, use a little bit more than 8 to 10 drops per 2 cups of sugar. Really, it's just about how strong you want your scent to be. So people ask about brands. I'm not too particular about my brands for essential oils. I've tried many different brands and some have been good and some haven't. It's really a matter of trial and error. I will say though that I wouldn't buy the cheapest essential oils you find on the grocery store shelves because those are usually not great. But other than that, I mean, experiment with it. You're gonna find some good brands and you're gonna find some not good brands just by testing them out. Okay, so we have our sugar, we have our oil. It's mixed to a decent consistency. See how it's like thick and keeping its shape? That's fine. Honestly, we probably could put more oil in there, but because it's coconut oil, it's gonna be thicker anyway, and that's all right. So when I've got it to a good consistency, I am going to separate out half of it. So I'm gonna put half of it back into here so that I can make 2 different colored colors of sugar scrub. And because this is peppermint, we'll say that's probably about half. 1 more scoop. All right, so because it's peppermint, I am going to dye it red. So here's my red food dye. Drop some in here. And you can literally do any scent and any color. That looks kind of violet, doesn't it? The red, I didn't even think of it. Thought it would be all Christmassy. No, it looks kind of scary, actually. All right, so I'm gonna mix it in there and hope it looks all nice and festive instead of frightening. So, yeah, you can make this any scent. I mean, I've seen people do lemon sugar scrubs, which are delicious. If you like lemon, I love it. The citrusy scent. What else? The gingerbread one, you saw the recipe for that. That didn't even use essential oils. That used powdered spices from my spice cabinet. And all of the ingredients that I'm using in this, the sugar, the oil, the food coloring, the essential oil, all of my ingredients are food grade. They don't have to be. There is such a thing as non-food grade sugar and non-food grade essential oil, and food coloring generally is food grade, but if you have some other kind of dye that's not food grade, I don't know if you'd want to use it. Actually, it could cause some problems later on. Okay. Actually, that'd probably be a good thing to test out now that I'm thinking about it, to see if the food coloring will dye your hands. I didn't even think of that. Use a food coloring, or a type of food coloring that's not going to dye your skin. I'm going to test this later and see if it does, now that I thought of that. But that's what the recipe called for, so they probably know what they're doing, right? All right, so ideally, you would get this to be a nice, even color. Oh, I was saying, sorry. So all of my ingredients are food grade, so that if somebody does go sneaking in and try this little tub of sugar scrub, it's food. It's not gonna hurt them, but it could give them a tummy ache because it's literally just sugar and oil. So it's not gonna hurt anybody, but be careful still. Watch out for the little ones. Okay, so I've got a nice color consistency here. It's more pink than red, but that's okay. So I've got my pink, my red, pink, and my white, and I'm going to take my little tub and I'm going to layer it. First, pink, red, and then I'll tap it down. This is one of the other nice things about the coconut oil, is that it makes for a thick paste that is easier to mold. All right, and I have another spoon over here. I'm going to pick up some of my white color, put that in there. So here's my white, tamping that down. I've got a layer of red and a layer of white. I think a little more white would be good. All right, another thing you have to be thinking about whenever you make these for other people especially is how it's going to be stored, because you don't want to let ants think that this is a good thing for them to eat. You don't want ants to smell this and come sniffing around. So you want to make sure you're putting this in an airtight jar, preferably a glass jar. Mason jars are great. I've used recycled jars before. I love getting those little condiments and putting things in there. All right, you see my nice little layer of white and red. So really you can use any type of jar as long as it's airtight and it's not going to encourage little critters sneaking in there. So now that we've got this, I would use the paper towel and wipe around the rim to make sure there's no sugar. So again, we don't encourage critters to come. I'll do that later though, so that I can show you this. I'm just gonna put on my lid, and I made these little labels, which again, I'm gonna email to you guys with the email that you guys signed up with. And I'm just using glue because I printed these here at the library and we only have regular printer paper. So I don't have sticker paper, but if you at home have a home printer, you can get sticker paper and print out labels like this and stick them on. But since we don't have sticker paper here at the library, just regular printer paper, and I'm literally gluing it to the lid. And that'll last as long as somebody uses this. This is a small jar. I mean, if you use this once or twice a week to exfoliate your hands and feet, I mean, it's gonna last you a couple months maybe. So it's just a small little sampling. Nice little gift. And then once you got your label on there, I would tie a ribbon on it and make it all cute. It's hard to do with gloves though, so I'll hold off on that one, but you can see what it looks like right here. Cute little ribbon. And then the way I deliver these is I'll print off these big descriptions so that people know what excuse me, so that people know what sugar scrubs are and how to use them. And then I'll put a little note on the back. Happy holidays from Nicole. It's not very exciting, but it gets the point across. So I'll just put it on somebody's desk like that. Happy holidays. And literally, again, you can use any combination of scents and colors to make any kind of sugar scrub that you want. So a nice, easy gift you can use all year round. And I hope that you enjoyed that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So yes, so now it's my turn and I'm gonna be making some candles. So let me go ahead and fix this camera. So I'm gonna begin making a candle. So you might be asking yourself, what is this that I have here? If anybody could take a guess, does anybody know what this is?
Wax paper?
Close. Yes, this is actually, it is a wax sheet. It's actually a beeswax sheet. So today I'm going to be making some candles. So I know many of you may think, well, these look more like decor, but candles are also a really good idea to gift as well. I think they're timeless and very classic. So I'm going to start with this. So here we have this sheet. I forgot to measure it. It is 16.5 by 8. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut it across. I'm going to cut it at an angle, a bias cut, because I'm going to be making the Christmas tree and I need that perfect angle, right? So let's go ahead and cut this. So kids, do not use an X-Acto knife by yourself. Please always make sure that you have your parents next to you, helping you at all times. So this beeswax sheets can be found at craft stores. The ones that we have here are, I believe they come with 16 sheets of them. And another cool thing that you could do with them is you could stack them together, because you see I have different colors. So I cut off different sizes for the trees. And when you stack them together, you could actually use cookie cutters to press them, and you put the wick in the center, and that will also make a nice candle. So here what I'm doing, I'm gonna place this wick right on the edge. I'm gonna press it in because I need it to stay. And since the wax, it molds around it, it helps it, right? Making sure that the longest part is at the top. Now when I have it like this, I'm gonna go ahead and start making like, have any of you made a burrito? I mean, I make burritos, you know? So if you had a burrito, think about it like that, or maybe like a sushi roll. Oh, now I'm just making myself hungry. But that's kind of like the purpose of it, but you have to do it gently. You do have to do it gently because if you go too fast, I found that the sheet actually breaks very easily. So you have to be very careful on that. And then you gotta make sure that things don't start falling apart. Also, the bottom here, this is gonna be my bottom, so I'm making sure that it stays nice and even. Making sure that that's staying even at the bottom because we need it to be able to stand, right? And it's a little difficult because it wants to move. This is the thing about doing things live. You know, sometimes they come out well, sometimes they don't. But almost done, almost there. It keeps moving a little bit, so it makes it a little difficult. Okay. Okay. Awesome. So now I gotta mold this top right here, right? So that's my Christmas tree. And then of course I have these other little ones that I'm gonna be putting next to it. And if you notice, actually this wax sheet is white. So what I did was I grabbed some of the metallic acrylic paint and I painted them. So I'm gonna be doing this to these, not right now, but you get the idea. And I'm gonna, it's a little cute little gift box of candles that you could use. I'm gonna paint these gold. But before I continue off to the next gift, I actually cut out some just little, some of the wax sheet red. So I'm going to place them around the tree so I could give them little spheres. And so that it could be more Christmassy, right? More holiday. And I think these are super cute. You could put them on your table as decor, or you could gift them as a holiday gift. I think they're super cute and adorable. Yep. So that's one gift idea. And I'm gonna put these aside. Now, I also created I went a little crazy with these because I just started making all kinds of stuff. So I'm using air dry clay. I don't know if any of you have air dry clay at home. Let us know in the chat if you do. But these are stuff that you could find at the craft store. And so what I did, I went ahead and created these little ornaments. So I just made this one, just a plaid, simple one. I'm gonna be gifting them to some of my coworkers. I made this one for myself as well. It's a good one. And let me see. And I'm currently working on these other ones, but I just finished them, so I just wanted to show them. Made these as well. So these are gonna be they're cute little gifts, you know, little sceneries, Christmas sceneries, and this is a plaid. So I really like the plaid thing. So I also made a little candy cane, so that's also easy to do. But we're gonna start making from just a small little piece. We're gonna make a quick Christmas tree. The trick to using this, the clay, is that you want it to stay thick, okay? You want it to stay at least a good amount of thickness there, because if you make them too thin, then over time, once you make this, you pierce the clay, you have to pierce it through, it's gonna fall off after a while. So you gotta think a little bit ahead of time, right? And so here, I'm just gonna be making a simple Christmas tree. Of course, you're gonna mold it, the triangle. Use the table to give you that nice smooth edge. Now, the air dry clay does take some time to dry, so hence the name air dry. It's gonna dry with the air. But I believe it'll take up to like, actually I came in today and I left an ornament drying, and one of them didn't fully dry, and I left it on Wednesday, and I didn't come back. I came back until today, and it was still fresh. So, but it was good. So now that you have your little Christmas tree, let's pretend that abracadabra, it dried. And we finished it, right? So now this is the finished product. The only little thing that I forgot to do in that other one is actually pierce it. So what I did, just try to use, you know, the brush and pierce it through. You gotta be very soft with it, because it could cause cracks later on as if you once it dries. So air dry clay is not the best, but it's great for easy crafts, right? Oops. So make sure you pierce that through. Make sure you get it all the way through, okay? So now that we have our Christmas tree, we could go ahead and do some small decorations on it. Let's see here. So I painted it in advance because I didn't, you know, want to make sure that I have enough time to show you guys. So I'm just gonna, you gotta feel free, get creative on this one. You could decorate it however you like. So I'm just gonna give it a few little spheres, little red spheres here and there.
Can you decorate the candles? That's another.
You want me to decorate? You want me to paint the candle?
I guess they're asking if there's ways to decorate them. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, let me see. I feel like this one will probably need a little bit more. Like maybe you could add more spheres to it. But let's put it aside. Did you guys want me to decorate one of these, or did you want me to decorate the other candle? Because I could just paint it.
Yeah, I think the candle should be fine. And also they were asking if cookie cutters can be made for shaping the clay.
Yes. I actually did use, this wasn't a cookie cutter. I actually, how do I explain this one? It was like a paper roll. It was a paper roll. I used the paper roll for this one. So I just laid down the clay, kind of like you're making cookies, you know, like a nice sheet, and then making sure that there's enough thickness there, they're not too thin, and then pressing them down. Yeah, that's what I did with the paper roll of paper.
Cool. And they're also asking if you can please show how to make the plaid, how you made the plaid design.
Plaid?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This one's fairly easy, guys. This one is pretty much just painting it over, you know, just painting, waiting for it to dry. That's pretty much it. The plaid one, you want to make sure that it's nice and clean. And best thing to do here is to be looking at a plaid pattern and follow that along. But let's go ahead and start with, so this is green. I might want to make a black and probably black and green and gold. That's a good plaid color. So remember, it's patterns. I have a flat brush to give me those nice thick lines that I need. So I'm just gonna use this one as an example. So I'm gonna follow this one along. I'm gonna be doing these thicker lines first. So you wanna start from the thickest and then to the smallest lines, right? Because there's going to be layers of them. So you're gonna start with the largest and then the smallest, the medium-sized stripes, and then the smaller ones, right? So let me go ahead and start with the first one. And start from the top and try to do it all in one. Boom, all in one. Just one stroke right there. I don't know if you guys saw that. Just one stroke right there. And I'm gonna do one final one right on the edge. And I'm gonna make that. This one I moved a little bit. It's okay. Very small. Guys, I feel so much pressure to do it live right now. Like,
I was just gonna say.
I feel
It's hard
so
enough to
much.
do it without the camera being on.
My hand is shaking, guys. Oh
Now,
my goodness.
do you recommend doing it all together like at the same time, or letting, you know, one coat kind of dry first and then do it later?
Right, you want to let the coats dry. The good thing about this paint, unfortunately, I can't show you the brand, but I can tell you that it's a multi-surface acrylic paint, okay? So it has a satin finish to it. So it's a multi-surface, if somebody could type that in, it's multi-surface acrylic paint. So now I'm gonna be using the red. And so the red one, I'm gonna put it right next to the smaller black lines, right next to them. And you gotta choose either you're gonna do it to your right or to your left and stay consistent, okay? So I'm just gonna do it to the left of it. What kind of helped me do, like, learning how to do these patterns, well, one, I sat there and looked at them a lot, but in fashion design school, we have to like look at certain patterns, you know, in order to be able to, you know, render them onto our croquis, which are illustrations. But guys, this is horrible. I feel so self-conscious.
What you could do, let's maybe we can pass on to Jaden, and then you can do the painting off camera,
Yeah,
and then
of course. Yes,
show the result at the end. So
absolutely.
mhm.
Thank you. Yeah, that would be great. So let's go ahead and switch it off to Jaden, because I know we have more great ideas for you guys. So let me go ahead. Jaden?
Yes, thank you, Dinah. So I'm going to be showing you guys how to make pixel art. And the way that I'm going to do that is using little beads. These beads come in different sizes and there's different brands. The one in particular that I'm going to be using is called perler beads. They're like medium sized. And I'm going to show you guys how to create your own pattern for these beads so you can pretty much make anything you want out of them. And I'm going to do that using an app called Pearly Pop. This app right here, little purple square with the teal circle inside, it's called Pearly Pop. So when you first open up the app, it automatically shows your gallery view. These are previous patterns that I've worked on before. I'm going to be doing a little self-portrait. So I'm going to be using the last image on the bottom left-hand side. So this one right here. And actually, let me go back. The way that I brought the image into here is that I pressed the plus sign on the upper right-hand side, and I went to my photos and chose this drawing. You have a couple of options here. You can either make a pattern from an existing photo, and it doesn't have to be a drawing. It can be a photograph. It can be just any kind of image. You could do a blank one where you make it completely from scratch without any photo reference. And then you also have the option to import an existing pattern. So for now, we're going to go with photos, and I'm going to go with this drawing. And when you import your drawing, the first thing you're going to see is these green grid lines on it, right? So these grid lines represent how many grid panels it's going to take to make your portrait, basically. And each of these squares measures 29 by 29. You'll see that on the right-hand side. And 29 by 29, it doesn't mean inches, it means like dots. It's like 29 beads in one row by 29 beads going up. And to get my picture to fit within the panels, I customized my size. So there's these 3 dots on the right-hand side, right under where it says mini. And when you tap on that, you can enter a custom size. So I wanted it to be 58 wide, which is 2 squares wide and 3 squares long, using 6 in total. So it requires a little bit of math and crunching some numbers to figure out the measurements. But once you have that, you'll basically have the layout for your pattern. And of course, the bigger you go, the more beads it's gonna take to make your portrait because it's so large, but also the more detail you can get. So if you do it much smaller, like let's see what happens when I pick 58 by 58. I'm gonna hit the next arrow and we're gonna see what the pattern looks like. So here it populates it into a pattern automatically, but doing it on a smaller scale on only 4 panels, it kind of blurs it a little bit. It doesn't look as detailed. It's kind of blobby. You can't really tell what it is. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to put my custom measurements, which was 58 by 87. Keep it to 6 panels and hit next, the arrow on the right. So this looks a little better than before. It's a little bit more detailed. Oh, and to answer your question, where to get the app, it is in the App Store. This app is mobile, so it only works on the iPhone or the iPad, unfortunately. So to my knowledge, I don't think it's compatible with Android devices. So it's just on the iPhone and iPad. You don't have to use this app to create a pattern for your pearly beads, but it's just a tool that I found that made it a lot easier. So in this step, once we have the amount of panels that we want, next we're going to choose our color palette, basically. How many colors do we want to use? So the specific brands that I'm using is Perler. You'll notice there's a little color palette with the word Perler next to it here on the right-hand side. If I tap on that here, I can change the brands because there's Perler, Hama, and Artcal. So depending on which one you choose, the colors are going to be different. What's really great about this is that it already knows the specific color codes for each brand. So if you have to go shopping for a specific color, it'll give you the code so you know exactly which color to look for. And there's a lot of them. So right now I'm looking at my pattern as though I were to use 30 colors. Let's see what happens when I toggle this all the way to the end and use the maximum amount. You'll see it looks a little bit smoother, a little bit more refined, more detailed. You can see the highlights and the shadows in my hair and in my skin and on my shirt. It's a lot more detailed, but I don't have 50 different colors of perler beads on hand. That's a lot. So I'm gonna bring it down a little bit, make it a little bit more feasible. 26 is still looking okay, but 26 is still a lot. I'm gonna keep adjusting it. 18 is okay. I'm okay with this one. So you can basically slide this and toggle it until you're happy with it. Because in the next step, we're going to be able to edit this a little bit further. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the arrow on the upper right-hand side to go to the next step. And this is going to give us a list of all the colors. It's going to say the names and the codes of the colors and how many of each color you're going to need. So you'll see at the top, the white, it says 78. That means I'm going to need 78 white beads, 207 black beads, 532 in peach, and so on. So one thing that we can do here is that all of these have like a little toggle switch next to them. I can actually turn it off and see what this pattern is going to look like without that color. Let's say I don't have sky. If I toggle sky off, you'll notice all the sky colored beads disappear from my pattern and the numbers on the other colors adjust. So it basically substitutes other colors to make up for the missing parts where the sky color was eliminated. But let's say I do have a light blue, but it's not sky. I have a different shade of a light blue that I want to use instead. So let's say I want to use toothpaste. So if I toggle that on, that's going to appear in my pattern and replace all the spots where the sky colored beads are. So you can basically play around with this and shift things around. If I were to turn this off, it would take out the highlights in my hair and it would just be a solid teal color. But notice how when I toggle on the parrot green, it says 265. When I toggle it off, the number of teal increases to 718 to make up for that lost space. So this is one of the ways that you can edit the colors in your pattern depending on what you have or don't have on hand. If we go to the next step, you can edit it a little bit further. I believe for this particular tool, it's one of those in-app purchases. The app itself is free to download, but there are certain features that you might have to pay like $1 or $2 to have access to. I believe this is one of them. But if you have this feature, I can go ahead and select any of these colors. Right now it's on white. And let's say I want to edit my glasses a little bit because I'm noticing there's a gap in them at the very edge of my face. So I'm gonna go in there with the white selected and tap on these little black beads, and I'm gonna change them to white and fill in that space. So I'm going in there and individually tapping these beads and changing the color of them to my liking. If I want to delete any beads, because I notice there's one floating around here to the right-hand side of my hair, if I click on this icon up here, the circle with the slash through it, this is to delete. So I can go ahead and tap on the bead and it'll just disappear and delete it from my pattern. And I can just keep eliminating those. There's a couple of other tools up here as well, like the eyedropper. Let's say I want this pink color of my shirt. I think there's too much brown or like tan on the shading of my shirt. I want more pink beads. I can use the eyedropper. I can tap on that bead and you'll notice here it'll automatically select that pink color, and I can go in there and turn these tan colored beads into pink and adjust them accordingly. So this is just one of the more in-depth ways that you can edit your pattern. Once everything is to your liking, you can go ahead and press the next arrow again on the upper right-hand side. And this is going to give you a final preview before you're ready to export your pattern. So here I have the list of my colors, how many I need of each one, and the 6 square grid. So now that I'm ready to export it, I click on this square with the arrow going up on the upper right-hand side right here, and press OK. And you can export this either as a PDF, an image, or if you want to save it as a PurlyPop file so you can continue editing it maybe from your phone or from your mobile device, you can save it that way as well. So for this, I'm going to save it as a PDF. And it's going to give me a preview, and it's going to look something like this. So in the first page, it's going to show me what the overall design looks like. And here it tells me the size is 58 by 87 rows. And it's going to take a whopping total of 3,099 beads to make. Remember, this is something that I'm making on a large scale. You don't have to make your stuff this huge if you don't have that many perler beads on hand, but it'll give you the grand total of what you need. And see, it numbers the panels from left to right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then on each page, it gives you a zoomed in version of each square and what's going to go in there. So if you'll notice, when I zoom in on this, there's these little symbols on here There's an up arrow, a side arrow. It's like circle with an arrow going diagonally to the left. So these symbols are to further help you distinguish the colors apart, because side by side, it's hard to tell the darker teal from the lighter teal. So those symbols are there to help you tell them apart. Also, if you end up printing this pattern in black and white, let's say you don't have a color printer and you can't print it in color, the symbols are also there to help you tell the colors apart. And I'll show you on the last page of this pattern. Here it has the list of your colors, how many you need of each, but it also has the symbol next to each one that tells you what each symbol means. So we know that all the up arrow symbols are parrot green. We know the down arrow is white, and so on. And the way that you're going to assemble this is you're going to have your pattern printed out. You're going to be looking at it and basically eyeballing it and copying what you see in this square on the grid that you have in front of you in real life when you're putting the little beads on it. And so I'm going to show you guys some progress pictures of the portrait that I made. So here's a picture of the progress of this thing. This is my pattern. I printed it out and I started in panel number 1 over here. And I have another picture over here. Just to explain a little bit, another thing to keep in mind, especially when you're working on a perler bead project of this scale, these little panels right here, you have to keep them perfectly still, especially if they're sectioned like this. So what I did is that I took a giant piece of cardboard and I taped down the 6 panels to the cardboard to make sure that they wouldn't move. Because if you're working on this on a table and any of them come apart or your table shifts, all of your beads can come loose and fall everywhere and you're gonna cry and it's gonna be very frustrating. It's extremely time consuming. You can see how many thousands of beads this takes to do when you're making it this large. But what I basically did was, you see here in this picture where you can see like my ear and the half of my glasses, I looked at it and I was like, okay, I'm going to start from this corner. Down here in the bottom, I see 1, 2, 3, 4 dark gray beads, a light gray bead, and then these peach colored ones. So I started down here. I went 1, 2, 3, 4 with the black, and I followed that pattern. So you're looking at it and you're basically mirroring what you see on the paper onto the grid. And another thing that's really important when you're doing this, once you have the entire thing put together and it's finished, the way that you get them to stay together is you use an iron to melt them. You use the heat to melt the plastic together and make it solid. And when you iron it, I'm going to show you guys how that's done. But when you iron it, it's going to look something like this. You'll notice over here it's a little smoother than some parts where you can still see the little holes in it, because when the plastic melts, it gets all squishy and it all becomes smooth and flat. This is the underside of the portrait. But just to show you real quick, semi-demonstrate, I have a little panel here in front of me. Hope you guys can see it. I did like a little heart, something very, very simple. Let me see if I can brighten up a little bit. Okay. And usually when you buy any kind of these beads, they tend to come with this sheet of wax paper. You need to basically put the wax paper on top of your design, and then you take your iron. Make sure, kids, that you have your parents do this for you because you don't want to get burned. And you're gonna put it over the wax paper and just press and like smooth it out, basically. Depending on how big or small your project is, don't apply too much heat, because if you do, you could end up actually melting the little spikes of your grid panel and it'll damage them, because this is plastic as well. So you just have to very lightly apply a little bit of heat and they'll adhere together and become solid. This was the
Oh, you guys are
final
gonna like this.
results. It's me.
You
So
can
this
see the
was
resemblance?
the what?
I said, look at the resemblance. Look at that.
With that, further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Hector, who's gonna bring it on home.
All right, thank you, Jaden, so much. So I am going to be talking about what is called a paper gift box, or what I like to call a surprise chocolate box. And these are super easy to make, super fun. I'm going to be stuffing it in with different kinds of chocolates, but think about what kind of snacks you guys like, or some kind of candy. They can also be used if you want to put like a small piece of jewelry, like some earrings or any kind of small objects. These are really, really nice to give away, and they're easy to make. So here's the list of materials that I'll be using. I'm going to be using some cardstock paper, uh, different colors, you know, depending on what design you choose, you'll buy those accordingly. A set of either an X-Acto knife or scissors. Again, if you're using an X-Acto knife, you want to make sure that if you're underage, that you have an adult use them for you and make the necessary cuts. Also use a cutting mat so that you can protect your desk or any kind of furniture. If you don't have a cutting mat, you can use any kind of like cardboard or an old box. If you just fold it, lay it flat on the table, that will protect the desk or the table surface. We're going to be using white glue, regular white glue, a ruler. I do recommend using metal rulers because they help you when you're doing the cut with the X-Acto knife. You're also going to be using a pencil and an eraser just to make the marks and to lay down the lines. You can use ribbon, and of course, any kind of materials that you're going to be including in the box. In my case, I will be using some chocolate just because I'm a chocoholic. I don't know if any of you guys are chocoholics too. But this is the basic template for the gift box. And again, this is the paper. So the dimensions of the square that we're gonna be cutting from that piece of paper are 21 centimeters by 21 centimeters, or basically 8.3 inches. That's the length and the height of the square. We're also going to be making some lines, some squares that are 7 centimeters or 2.75 inches in length. And we're gonna be folding the sides on all sides, and I'll show this in the video. And then we're also gonna be making some cuts only on one side, because we're gonna be making kind of like a cube, a paper cube. So here's the little demonstration of that video. So I made my marks, and again, just for the purpose of demonstration, I'll be using an X-Acto knife. And this is, you want to make use of the metal ruler, the side of the ruler, and always cut away from your body, not towards your body. Make sure you have a new blade, or a blade that is not rusted or has any, you know, damage, because you don't want it to slip and make any bad cuts on yourself. And you can see that is the cutting mat. That's why we use it, to protect the furniture, because it's a very sharp blade. So the dimensions again are 21 centimeters on the squares. If you use the metric system, which I find easier. And again, I use the ruler to create the folds. It just aids me. I know Nicole in a previous webinar talked about a tool, the folding bone something, which makes nicer folds. I'm not an expert at folding paper or cardstock, but once you use the ruler, it's super easy to make those folds. So you want to make sure that you're folding it on all sides. So again, this is the little cube that we're using for the box. So it's going to be making a cube, and you can fold it both ways, inwards and outwards, just so that it creates a nice little crease. And we're going to be cutting on the second line, basically the line that is going to be on your right hand, not the first one, but the second one, because we're going to be cutting it and then folding it over so that we can form that nice little cube. And of course, we're going to be gluing it in. So you want to test it, make sure that everything is okay, just like I'm showing right now, making the folds. on all sides. And that's basically, and you'll be surprised because cardstock is actually quite durable. I was a little bit afraid when I first started out, and I thought maybe it won't hold the chocolates, but it did pretty well. Okay, so this is the template for the lid of the gift box. And the dimensions for this are 11.2 centimeters by 11.2, or basically 4.4 inches if you're using the English system. And we're gonna be making some marks for the folds that are 2 centimeters from the edge, or basically 0.8 inches, just short of an inch to make those. And the same process of making the cuts on the side that's on your right-hand side when you're doing that. So let me show that. So as you can see, making the cut right here on the sides. And what I did is I did the template on the side of the sheet so that I only have to make 2 cuts. I don't have to make 4 perfectly nice and even cuts on the piece of paper. So that's a nice tip to do. And again, I use the ruler just to make the nice folds, make those creases. That makes it a lot easier instead of just trying to do it by hand, which like I said, I'm terrible. So using the ruler really helps you out with making those nice folds so that they're nice and even. And we fold all 4 of those lines that we marked. Again, we're gonna be cutting the second line, not the first one, but the second one, the one that's on your right hand side. Just the little cuts, because again, we're going to be folding it over and we're going to be gluing it. I didn't show the cube, but I'll show the lid, and it's the same process of folding it over and gluing it together. So the way the original tutorial showed, I'm gonna pause it right here. On the original tutorial is that you're gluing the 4 corners. But I found out for the lid, it's easier if you put glue on the inside of one and then on the outside of the other one. Same for the other one. You put one on the inside and one on the outside. The reason being, I didn't like the way this little cut, you again can see it when I fold it, it's gonna go on the back end of that box. So let me play the video for you. And I didn't realize it until after I had created the lid for the box. Again, you fold it, but you see, I noticed I should have put it on the back, but it works either way. It just, I think it's a better fit and a nicer look when that little square goes on the inside of the lid instead of on the outside. It makes for a much nicer display. So that's basically how it looks at the end. And again, let me pause it briefly. This is what I was talking about when I should have glued this on the inside instead of on the outside. It just doesn't look as good to me. But it works either way. It works either way, and it makes a really nice box. So the final thing is, of course, you're going to be decorating your boxes. And what I did for this one, I cut off some ears, so some Mickey Mouse ears out of the same black cardstock that I used for the top, and I left enough on the bottom so that I can easily make a nice little fold to fold it over. And I also cut off some white cardstock for those little things that he has on his trousers. These are the Mickey Mouse ears, and I created a fold, and then you just basically glue those details. I also created another box, which I did a little elf. I did it with different colors of green, light green, a darker shade of green for the cover, and then the little hat with a little arrow with the same red color. And I put a little waistband on the elf. And this is the final result. I made 3 different ones. And I stuffed them with some chocolate, some Hershey Kisses, and some other kinds of chocolate. I don't know, you can put any kind of stuff in there. You can put some candy, or like I said, maybe some earrings or some jewelry. And they're very sturdy. And again, you can use this not just for the holidays, but you can actually use it for like a birthday gift or any kind of present that you want to do. They're super easy to make. They're very durable, And if you leave them without any design on the top, they're stackable. So you can actually put a bunch of those little cubes all together. So that's pretty much all I have for this presentation.
Okay, so I wanted to show like the final part. I finally got the plaid ornament to, sorry, I'm dealing with this paint over here. Okay, so I went ahead and I wanted to show, before I start adding the other layer, wanted to show what I did. So I first added the thicker lines. Those are the first ones. So if you notice, I see like a, kind of like a hashtag, okay? For the lack of a better word. I know it's called a pound sign, but it's a hashtag. And then of course, you want to do the same thing with the smaller lines. If you notice, there's a little pattern here. These two smaller lines, the thicker lines, and the two thicker lines here. And as well as the smaller lines right here that are parallel to those in the center. And here we go. You see, if you're gonna follow the lines, the two black dark lines next to them, put the gold one or the yellow. And then you'd have the same similar concept. You wanna do like that crisscross hashtag look, okay? And I just went ahead and finished this other one here, and I added the little string to it. So this one's done as well. Yep. Awesome. Well, if there's no other questions, we want to wish you happy holidays, whatever it is that you celebrate. Happy New Year. Thank you once again from the bottom of our hearts here at YOUmake Miami. And on behalf of Miami-Dade Public Library Systems, we're going to sign off this year, 2020. Enjoy the rest of your year, and let's look forward to next year, 2021. Thank you, guys.